the issue that has come up on Case Citizens United versus the FEC. There's a Supreme Court case being heard now. Now, why is it so important? Well, you know, these conservatives, man, they have no sense of irony or hypocrisy. They call the liberal justices judicial activists. Well, Chief Justice Roberts, in the middle of a case, went and told the lawyers arguing the case, hey, you know what? Change course. I want to hear about something else that you were not anticipating here. I want you to make an argument that we should allow corporate and union money, but mainly corporate money, to get back into politics. Now, it has not been allowed in politics. Corporate money has not been allowed in politics since 1907, okay? And then union money got banned a little later as well. Now, what do I mean banned? How is it allowed, not allowed? Let me give you a quick explanation so you know where this is going. Now, they could do PACs, which means a corporation can go to all their employees and say, hey, Joe, Bob, would you like to donate to, you know, Senator McCain's campaign or Senator Obama's campaign? And they put it together. But that's really hard. They do it anyway, but it limits the amount of money that they could raise, right? Now, what they want to do is they want to lift that restriction. Now, you can't give directly to the senator, right, or to the congressman or the presidential candidate. But you can, if this rule is lifted by the Supreme Court, then the floodgates open and they can spend as much as they want before the elections on issues. They don't give it to the candidates, but they could support a candidate or be against the candidate, in which case millions, billions will pour in from corporate interests, from big money, and from unions, and take over the whole political process. If you thought the big money had taken over the political process now, which it has, wait till you get a load of what happens if the Supreme Court overrules themselves. This precedent that was reaffirmed in 1990 and 2003. Now, out of nowhere, in the middle of a case, they go, oh, come on, come back and argue that, and you have a month to figure out your arguments. That is very unprecedented, and it is absolutely judicial activism, where they go and they find a precedent that they want to overturn, that no one expected to be overturned, to bring more big money into the process. Now, here's where you have to give John McCain a ton of credit, because he's the guy who, along with Senator Feingold, did, of course, the McCain-Feingold bill, where they wanted to limit the impact of big money on politics. Okay, that was an excellent effort to begin with, and the fact that McCain reached out and defied a lot of people in his party who made a lot of money off of the corporations was, you know, honestly, was fairly heroic work to begin with. But look at how strongly he comes out against a right-wing Supreme Court now. We're going to go to 3 different clips here. Here's the beginning of the press conference with McCain and Feingold, clip number 12.
Some of the justices' apparent naivete as to how corporate and union and unlimited money affects the legislative process here. The reason why Senator Feingold and I joined together in the name of campaign finance reform was in the name of average citizens who deserve to be represented here in Congress and in the making of laws. It's apparent to me that the questioning shows a strong disconnect, a great disconnect between the justices and the reality of politics when corporate and union leaders were able to take calls from powerful committee chairmen and who would say, I want a check in 6 figures in soft money, and by the way, your legislation is up before my committee. We saw the corruption of soft money. We saw it in the Telecommunications Reform Act. We saw it in other legislative activity results as well, as the influence of special interests and corporate and union money in Washington, which crowded out then the right of the average citizen who doesn't have the huge amounts of money that corporate and union treasuries do.
Man, calling out the right-wing Supreme Court as naive and not understanding the political process, those were harsh words. Very nicely done. And he's going to continue in the next clip. We have McCain and Feingold on the court trying to overturn law here. Let's go to that clip number 13.
Now, there are certain judges who are alleging that somehow corporations have the same rights as citizens. I don't accept that premise.
And of course we're concerned when the court sets a special argument on not an issue relating specifically to McCain-Feingold, but whether this long-standing law should be overturned. And the idea that in an era of AIG and Exxon, that their corporate treasuries would be opened up to destroy the political process, this is a very bizarre time for these justices to be considered to destroy this long-standing law that has protected our democracy.
Again, very strong language going right after that right-wing Supreme Court by John McCain. Now, he says corporates and unions, but very clear that this money pouring in is not going to help the process, and that these judges are going far afield. And, you know, as I saw this, I said, man, I can't give McCain enough credit here, because Politico has an article saying, well, if corporate money does pour in, it will probably help the Republicans more than the Democrats. So again, a lot of people in his party are going to be mad at this, but if all this wasn't clear enough, McCain's got one last statement he wants to make here. Clip number 14.
Does anyone believe that the rights of average citizens to be heard in Washington would not be overridden by massive unlimited campaign contributions from corporations and unions? That is a disconnect from reality. We saw the corruption. That's why we acted. And that's why Congress acted. Not in Congress's self-interest, but because there was a demand on the part of the American people in the face of corruption for us to act. And we did.
Talking about corruption and how the money has to be stopped because these people are being bought off. That's good work. Definitely good work by McCain and Feingold fighting on this. But you know what? If you elect Republicans for president and then they wind up packing the court with extreme right-wingers like Roberts and Alito, well, they wind up taking the court in this direction. And if this gets overturned, okay, this law gets overturned, and this precedent gets overturned, and in this Citizens United versus the FEC case, the new right-wing Supreme Court says big money can pour in, oh, then our politicians are going to be completely bought on every issue. And they're not going to represent us worth a lick. I mean, if they do now, you know, they barely do now. Maybe, kind of, on some issues. It's kiss it goodbye if this happens. So it is a monumentally important issue. And Roberts smiled throughout his whole... We knew where Alito was coming from, but we told you here on the Young Turks. Roberts smiled and said, oh, look at my family. I'm so pleasant. I smile all the time. Oh, me. Oh, yeah, I respect precedent so much. No. And I take it very seriously. The minute he gets in, he shreds precedent, does judicial activism, and now wants to make sure that the money pours in so that his Republican friends can get elected more. Highly politicized, highly activist, and highly wrong and damaging to our system. I don't know if there's a way that the more liberal or moderate or centrist justices can stop the majority. Our only hope is probably Justice Kennedy being able to swing him. But if they're taking up that case, probably Roberts already got Kennedy in his corner, or he thinks he has Kennedy in his corner. That could be really bad news.